Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You all thought you were getting the 30-second countdown. You're wrong. It's Man in the Iron Mask. Let's go.
The Man in the Iron Mask.
It is that time of the month. You all know what that means. It is time for another installment of Life in the Movies. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Ryan Cam, and I am joined every month, always, by Jacob Martin. Jacob, how are you doing?
Doing very well. It's been very exciting lately, life wise. We had our school lectureship last week. I shared every lesson from all the preachers and students from the school. That was very exciting stuff. A friend of mine came up that I've befriended for a good year to hang out with me. We're now officially dating. That's really exciting. My dad came up over the weekend to visit. Just some really exciting stuff that's happened in the last couple of weeks, and very happy time right now.
I was talking to you briefly before we went live, and you said that in school that you were almost halfway there, if my memory serves.
Yeah, it's a 3 year school. I started. I technically started mid year in what they got. So usually they start in the fall. I start in the springtime, and so by the time we get to the summer, I'll have had a year and a half done. So I'm officially halfway done by the time we get to July.
Well, you are the spiritual advisor of this show, and I could not be happier for you. But we've already got comments. Jacob Collins is here. Hey, 3D Jake is in the house. Wow, Ryan going full Patrick Bateman over here. Cocaine addiction and
Oh,
all.
hell no.
Also, how you doing, Jacob, buddy? You look good, man. Well,
I'm doing well.
don't just look at it, eat it. No, but
Uh,
but
how are things going on your end, Ryan?
everything's going very well. I started up a run club, which is basically a group of people and myself. We're basically running together now, and it's a lot of fun. It just got started. I'm looking forward to it. We got Henry Mockingbird in the chat.
Mockingbird.
Hello, guys. Never seen the Man in the Iron Mask. Well, at the end of the stream, you're going to want to because it is very good. But we'll cross that bridge in a minute. But yeah, life has been going good. I ask all of you for your prayers for my grandmother. She is not doing super well. She's got some Alzheimer's going on, and it has not been fun, especially on my mom. So I would appreciate your prayers if you all are spiritual. I know, Jacob, you're pretty much Billy Graham at this point. So I would appreciate your thoughts on this. But I don't want to go too deep into it. This is meant to be a fun show, but it's but outside of that, everything is going well. I am a very blessed man. Let me just say. Jeremiah's in the house. Ryan, my man, you look sharp. Thank you. Any feeling about Keanu Reeves being cast as Shadow in Sonic 3? Wait, when did this? Jacob, did you hear about this?
I did hear about this earlier today. I saw it on Facebook.
Do you care about Sonic franchise at all? I'm actually a fan, though I'm not a gamer at all. The first two Sonic movies I enjoyed. I'm not over the moon about them, but I enjoyed them. It was interesting, like that one time where people were complaining about the design, and they were like, all right, we'll change them to something that looked more like video game accurate. But I've enjoyed Sonic 1 and I've enjoyed Sonic 2, and Keanu Reeves is never a bad addition to your movie, so I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'm not over the moon on the Sonic movies either, but they're all right movies. I heard about the casting earlier today, and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy for him. It's cool that he's playing that character that they teased at the end of the last movie. I'm sure he'll do good in the role. So
Small talk sucks without me, and talking silence is better than small talk. Jason the Old Millennial is a great man. Hunt did suck, though. Thumbs got the better of him there. Man in the Iron Mask is this the movie with RZA and he has iron? No, that's the Man with the Iron Fists. That's a way different movie. That's far worse than this. I do want to apologize that this stream is very late. I do this to myself all the time. I book myself in things and thinking, oh, it's going to start at the time they say, and it's going to end at a certain time they say. Wrong on both accounts. So like both the Jacob Martin and Collins were like, hey, were you murdered? I'm like, no, my phone was just on do not disturb. So I want to apologize if you all were waiting on the stream. I didn't mean to keep you waiting too terribly long. I do care about when these things start, so I'm very sorry about that. But we do have people in the live chat, so thank you all for joining. If you have seen The Man in the Iron Mask, feel free to chat about it in the comments. Jeremiah's back. Sending Ryan a hug and your grandma best wishes. Alzheimer's is truly hard on people. I can't imagine. Yeah, it is. In a serious note, as someone who works with people with dementia, I'm praying for her, and I will say, spend all the time with her that you can. Well, I am certainly trying to, but with all the life stuff out of the way, I think we can get into the movie we're going to be talking about tonight, The Man in the Iron Mask. And this was released. Oh, we got one more comment. I told Jacob he was probably on another cocaine bender again. Same old thing on Small Talk. Alrighty then. That's 3D movie cinema being 3D movie cinema, y'all. But we're going to be talking about The Man in the Iron Mask. This was released in 1998. It was directed by Randall Wallace, and it starred, quite frankly, it starred a lot of people. Leonardo DiCaprio in 2 roles, Jeremy Irons, John Malkovich, Gerard Depardieu, and Gabriel Byrne, and that's just the famous ones. I've already read that one. While I may not have seen The Man in the Iron Mask, I've seen a bit of a version of it, of the 1939 version, on a VHS tape. So, Jacob, had you seen this movie before, or was this your first time?
No, when I selected this movie, I was scrolling through Tubi after we talked about the last movie last month, and I'm like, I've never heard of this movie. I looked up the cast in the film, and I'm like, this has potential. And watching the movie, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I highly enjoyed this movie. For one, it's got everything you want in a movie. It's got action, it's got drama, it's got tragedy, it's got romance, it's got deception, it's got some suspense in there. The cast in this movie is unbelievably good. Jeremy Irons, John Malkovich, DiCaprio is incredible in this movie, playing 2 roles. It was cool that he is the hero and the villain in this movie. It was great seeing the 2 different sides of DiCaprio's acting chops in this movie. And this was like when he was early in his career. I read this was his first movie post Titanic, and he's great in this. You can see why he became Oscar caliber actor when watching this movie.
Yeah, Titanic came out in 97, and this movie came out in 98. So we're literally looking at DiCaprio, like, not at the height of his powers, but pretty well close to it. But we do have a couple more comments. Jeremiah, I really enjoyed the trailer for this. I was very surprised to see it has only 32% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
The trailer was very well acted, intense, and fun. And last one from me, but I did enjoy this movie. And me, Ryan, and Matt Wyatt just reviewed an episode of Smallville where Lex Luthor does the Man in the Iron Mask storyline. That is very true, yes, with the truly evil Lex Luthor and the Lex Luthor that we know up until that point in the show. But yeah, I couldn't agree with Jacob more. This movie was honestly an epic in every sense of the word, which is weird because Roger Ebert only gave it 2.5 stars, which is not crapping on the movie, but not exactly like praising it either. And 32%, which just seems bizarre to me. Like, why is that such a low score? And Rotten Tomatoes is like, it's weird, but I mean, like 32%, that just seems low.
Yeah, it's funny. That movie's low. And I just watched a Disney movie earlier today. That'll be on my next Celebrating Disney live stream. There was a film that came out in 1978 called The Cat from Outer Space. And it has a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a decent response from critics. And I thought it was one of the lamest movies they've ever put out. So sometimes, there's heavy disagreement between, what the majority of critics like or dislike than what I like. And yeah, that Rotten Tomatoes stuff is weird.
Does it star Ken Berry, the cat from outer space?
Yeah, him
Okay,
and
I'm looking at it on IMDb. It's
Sandy
got
Duncan is in it,
Harry
and
Morgan, who was in MASH, and well, McLean Stevenson was in the movie too, and also in MASH, and Roddy McDowell is in this as well.
yeah,
And
it's an odd movie, and that's just a weird movie, but that's a story for a different day.
yeah, that movie came out in '78, and that was in the era where Disney was just like, just put
Throw
stuff out there.
everything at the wall.
Like they were releasing stuff like The Watcher in the Woods in this era, which is a movie that I like, but it was a weird time where Disney was just like not cool. Like
Yep.
nothing they were doing was like even remotely cool.
They also put out a movie called Gus, which has Don Knotts, and it has a mule playing football, and it's one of the worst movies they've ever put out.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Next month's Life in the Movies. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm kidding. But getting back to The Man in the Iron Mask, this is one of my dad's favorites, and so when I got this one, I'm like, oh, finally an excuse to watch this one, and I absolutely loved it. But Jeremiah's back. I love The Cat from Outer Space. It's just very silly, and it's no that darn cat, but it knows what it is. The comedy is amusing, and the romance is fairly cute. I hope you're talking about the original That Darn Cat, Jeremiah, because the remake was awful, but the original was actually very good.
I've not seen either version, so
Yeah, I did a whole thing where I watched almost all the movies in '97, and That Darn Cat was among them. And whoo boy, 90 minutes I can't get back. Gus is also a family favorite. Don Knotts always goes for broke with everything he's in. That's true. And the villains are so beautifully corny. But but as far as the Man with the Iron Mask goes, like I was talking about, this is Leonardo DiCaprio like a year after Titanic. I won't say it's like at the height of his powers, but it's pretty well close to it. I mean, he had only been in like a few movies up to Titanic. I think he was in The Beach, and he was in The Basketball Diaries, and he was in Marvin's Room. Or it was like this something room movie with Meryl Streep in it and Robert De Niro. And I
I
can't
know he
remember
was also in that movie Gilbert Grape with Johnny Depp.
what's eating Gilbert Grape. I have
Uh,
seen that.
he was also in a movie called The Quick and the Dead,
Yeah, Sam
directed by Sam Raimi.
Yeah, so DiCaprio had been around, but as like Titanic just like broke him in, and now he's been like fairly consistent, like top billing and everything. Oh God, I am not talking about the remake of That Darn Cat. Definitely not. Well, just clarifying. But like we were talking about earlier, Leo plays two roles. He plays Louis the 13th, who is the basically like the archetype of like the awful king, like the leader who is like having wars for no reason. His people are starving in France. It's just not a good time. But then he being DiCaprio, pronouns, he he also plays Philippe, who we see him first in the movie, literally in this huge, heavy iron mask that he has to wear all of the time. And he knows nothing of why he's there. He just knows that that has been his entire life. And Philippe and Louis could not be opposite of each other. And DiCaprio just nailed it.
Yeah, it's he. You can just see like the different style of range that he can go through. Just you see him playing the heroic type with Philippe, and then you see like the truly evil side of him as the king, and it's fantastic seeing him play off of that with the two characters that he's playing. Another thing that I didn't realize going in was this is technically a Three Musketeers movie. I did not realize that going in. You got Jeremy Irons, John Malkovich, and I forget the other
Gerard
guy.
Depardieu and Gabriel Byrne.
Yeah, they are the Musketeers in this movie, and they're older, they're aging. Some of them have more problems. You got the thing is D'Artagnan is the one he leaves and becomes loyal to the king, and
Mm-hmm.
so the other Musketeers view him as a traitor because of that. You
Yeah.
have Jeremy Irons, who's a priest, another one who's a womanizer, and John Malkovich is just doing his own thing. But
Yeah.
then when they realize the madness that's going on, that forces the Musketeers to come back together to right the wrong that's going on, like the Musketeers always do. And I loved the interplay between the Musketeers in this movie. Especially Jeremy Irons and John Malkovich are excellent in this movie. There's a little bit of levity that makes the movie fun to watch, but you also get the weight of the story at the same time. It's a really good balance of stuff that I really admired when watching the film, especially when there's more recent movies that have come out where you know they try to do something very serious and weighty, and it's undercut by a cheap joke. For Love and
Mm-hmm.
Thunder, bad example of that. But I felt like this movie did a real good job of balancing the two together.
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up is that I don't know if you all can see behind me, but I have a VHS of the Disney version of the Three Musketeers that came out in 1993. And that movie had Chris O'Donnell, Oliver Platt, Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, and who was the other Musketeer? I'm forgetting now. He's probably going to come to me later, but Tim Curry played the Cardinal in
Oh
just a
wow!
great role. I love him in that. Like all for one and more for me. Like I love that movie so much.
I
But
have actually never seen that version.
oh, we're definitely doing that for a future installment of this show. But because you need to see it, it's so much fun.
Yeah, the only
But
the only Musketeers I've seen, I think there was one in the '40s. I've seen. I think Gene Kelly was in it. I've seen the one that came out in the '70s. Uh, I've seen technically this movie now, and I've seen the Mickey, Donald, and Goofy version.
I mean, hey, that counts. I've seen that one too. But
That
but
one's
the point
underrated.
the point I was trying to get at with this, the 93 one was very much like a swashbuckler. It was a lot of fun. It was big over the top action. It was a lot of fun. It was a great time. But the Man in the Iron Mask feels very much more like a play rather than like an action movie. There are action scenes in this, but they don't really feel like they're the main they're the main driving force.
Hmm.
The characters are very entertaining, like you were talking about, and everyone's got their own stuff going on. Uh, Aramis, who was the priest, I thought he was great. Jeremy Irons, I mean, come on. But then I think my favorite of the Musketeers, honestly, I think it might be John Malkovich. Like I loved his arc so much. Like he just like his reasons for going after the king are very understandable because the king wants wants his son's like wife or future wife for himself. He basically arranges it to where his son dies in battle, and it's like an abuse of power that's just disgusting, and
Hmm.
it makes you sick inside.
Yeah, uh, yeah. Malkovich especially does a great job, which to me kind of blew me away because Malkovich tends to be an actor that people tend to make fun of for like his hamminess, but he actually pulls the weight off very well in this movie, and that's something I got to give the director, Randall Wallace, a lot of props. He's low key a pretty underrated writer director. He actually wrote Braveheart, and you can definitely feel the kind of like the similarities in two movies, especially like in scope. He also directed. I looked it up. He directed a really underrated Disney movie called Secretariat, which is fantastic.
Really, I love that movie so much.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy. Like he also, I'm looking it up. He also directed We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. I haven't seen that in a while, but I did like that one. So Randall Wallace is like he also had a hand in writing Pearl Harbor, which I mean,
that's
yeah,
like that's probably like his one weak spot.
yeah, yeah. I am not in favor of the monarchy, except if it were Tim Curry, and if he becomes king of the world, it, I, I will be both in favor of it and unsurprised. I mean, at this point, I mean, why not? But this movie feels very much like more interested in making these characters interesting and feeling more, like I said, more like a play. Like these things unravel themselves to a point to where you look back on it and you go like just it feels like an actual drama that you would see in like an actual theater rather than a movie theater. And I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah, I think the play comparison is a good point. I didn't think of it much at the time, but it does feel very theatrical, especially as far as the acting goes, and I think the way the story goes as well. It takes its time setting up the characters, the conflict, and the overall drive of the story. And I wasn't bored watching it. Some movies, they rush their storytelling. Sometimes it meanders on. I feel like this was a really fine balance that made the movie really work.
Yeah. I love um I love Gabriel Byrne as well in this movie as D'Artagnan because he's basically the king's advisor. And his whole rationale for why he does the things that he does is that despite all the musketeers, the fellow musketeers calling him a traitor, he's like, I'm not betraying the king because I think that he can be a good man. I'm like, D'Artagnan, I see what you're trying to do and I respect it, but this man is a monster. Like, and there's like, you got to call a spade a spade. And so, like, it's frustrating, but it's also the frustration doesn't come from a place where you're just like, you're just annoying. Like, the dude is actually trying to take water from a stone and try and make Louis into a good person, even though that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I admired his rationale throughout the whole movie. That character, I'm like, I admired what he was trying to do, but I could definitely see like the conflict with that. But then I don't think we want to. I want to spoil this because it's a movie nobody's seen. But you get to the reason why he did it at the end of the movie, and it pays off to a line that's set up earlier in the movie between him and John Malkovich, a line that involves children. I'll just say it like that without spoiling it.
Yeah, there's a
And
big old twist that we're not going to give away
you
here.
get
Short
you
answer.
get to the reason why, and it's like it completely reframes his character. I'm like, okay, it completely makes sense why he did that, and the way they paid it off, I thought was very beautiful.
Yeah, and also again, I won't spoil it, but what happens at the very end with the final battle, I thought that was very good.
Oh man, I'm gonna say I got goosebumps when you see the characters. They do like the big charge at the end. I was like, this is something out of Braveheart right here. It's obviously smaller in scale, but I think Randall took some pages out of Braveheart and brought the inner emotions in me.
Also, it takes place in a in like it all practical. Like
Yes,
there's also
I think that was refreshing too because I think a lot of us have been kind of spoiled lately on these blockbusters where it's all like there's more CGI and green screen and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that per se if you do it well, but the practicality of this movie was absolutely amazing. Like they were either on location or in sets, and I think that makes a big difference into being absorbed into the storytelling and the overall environment.
And there is some CG, but it is incredibly rare, and you never it's never used to replace anything. It's not the whole canvas, it's a tool in the toolkit. That's the best way that I can describe it.
Yeah,
But I also loved I loved the whole I love the whole like slow reveal of when they get Philippe out of the prison. First of all, the one part of that I was kind of like, huh, really? Is the whole thing of smuggling him out of the prison stuffed up into like Aramis's like cloak
mhm.
or whatever, and he's pretending to be this like fat Italian guy? I'm just like,
Yeah,
huh?
that part was weird. That part was I was like that. Like some of the humor I thought worked, but that one I was like, this is supposed to be this really epic escape, and you have Jeremy Irons putting on a goofy accent, and and I was confused. I'm like, where'd they get the body from? Like, did they just kill a random guy, or they just like, or was that just the? I'm so confused. I was so confused over that.
Jacob, you've seen all the Pink Panther movies, right? I think you reviewed them a long time ago.
I did.
There's this one, and I can't remember which one. Maybe you can help me. Where Peter Lorre dresses up as like a Vito Corleone-esque Italian gangster, and he's like, "Mamma mia," like that. Like it was giving me that kind of vibe.
Yeah. But this is supposed to be serious. Pink Panther is supposed to be silly. Like I can, like if it was a Pink Panther movie and they did that, I'd be like, yeah, it's funny. But you get this movie, and it's like, what?
I know
And
security cameras didn't exist in the 18th century, but still, you can be like, "What you got under the cloak? What's under the cloak?"
it's so obvious. Like there's clearly somebody under his belly. Like I felt like I was watching some comedy sketch there.
Like I had a big lunch. Like, no, you didn't. So
Yeah.
like thankfully that it doesn't last long, and it's not one of those things you're like, oh dear god. It's like just one of those things where you're like, come on, and like his rationale be like, it's the plague, burn it. I'm like, who is that man? Like it's not Louis, so like who is the guy that they replaced under there? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that was the weird part of the movie. Yeah, there was like two really weird parts of the movie. The other one, one of the Musketeers, his whole thing is, he's like a drunk and a womanizer, and he thinks he has no purpose. So there's this one bit where he tries to kill himself, and so there's this one part he like takes his clothes off and he walks around naked and he goes into a barn and tries to hang himself. The funniest part is where like Jeremy Irons knew that he was going to do that, so he messed with the beam so he wouldn't do it, and like the whole barn crumbles down. I'm like, I don't know how that would work because with the barn crumbling down, you could have killed him while trying to save him. Like that was a weird moment too.
Also, he like sawed the beam off. I'm just like, how did you get up there? Was there a ladder? Like I don't see a ladder.
Yeah, yeah. Those are like the two moments of the movie where I'm like, eh, I'm like, I think you could have done the escape better, and I could have done without that other scene.
Yeah, it's not like it's throughout the movie. It's like that one scene and the prison escape. That's about it. The rest of the time is just it like it's just pure like Kino. Like it's that good. And the masquerade scene, I thought that was very well done. I love how when the when something is revealed, like in the masquerade, Jacob, you know the scene I'm talking about,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Where D'Artagnan realizes something. I love how they don't make a big super deal about it, like a music cue, like a dun dun, like or something like that. He just like he has a tell, and then he's got a hunch, and then he just follows up on that hunch. It's so subtle, but I love that so much.
yeah. There's a lot of great nuances in the script. that I thought made the movie really stand out. I brought up the one element with the D'Artagnan character earlier, and I thought that paid off really greatly. Another one involved John Malkovich's character and the grief that he was going through, and then how that ties into when he trains Philippe throughout the story. I mean, that pays off at the end. I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah, and I love the scene where they get Philippe out of there and then they slowly like remove the mask and you like see he's got the long hair and the beard and like it's a struggle getting the mask off of him, period. And so and like you just hear him in pain because you forget this thing is heavy and he's got to wear that all day. So it's like it's brutal and like the mask almost becomes a character in itself. Like Louis opens up this box that he receives and he sees the mask inside and he's just terrified of it. And then later on, when something happens, he confronts Philippe and he's like, "You're going to wear that mask and you're going to wear it until you love it, and then you will die in it." Oh, that's so good. So good.
yeah. Like I think especially that scene, I was like, man, Leo's a good actor. Like wow. Uh, like with this movie, I could. It was probably like, all right, man, this guy's serious. Let's hire him to do more movies and try to push him to get Oscars. Uh,
It'll take him a while to win one, but he'll get one.
yeah, like between that and Catch Me If You Can, which came out a few years after this, it's like this was like his like really growing streak, I would say.
Yeah, but I just and I loved how like the action scenes are very limited, but they're done so very well. Like it's pretty much all contained to the last 20 minutes,
Yeah,
and but it's just epic.
it is.
This live stream is great. Did you think of my telling you in the comments? Yeah, I knew that was an April Fool's joke, Jeremiah. Context, Jacob. So there on my channel, Jacob, Matt, and I, we did an April Fool's joke. It was a thing. Some people got it, some people didn't.
Oh, was that the one where like I think I saw that? Was that the one where like Jacob Collins did like the rage quit?
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, this has got to be April Fools because there's
It
no
was.
way that would actually happen.
But Jeremiah had a very funny comment. But to kind of add on to it, when he said I've watched a bunch of wrestling, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's not that serious. But but yeah, but it's all contained to like say the last 15, 20 minutes, and then when something happens, and I love the line, and I don't know if I should like say it out of context, but it's the line where DiCaprio says DiCaprio says take him to the prison, have him be fed by a deaf mute, feed him well. I'm like, oh, he's making this one last. Like that's just brutal stuff. And then at the end, you come to find out that both of the characters have basically like switched lives in a sense. And I won't give too much away, but they've switched lives, Jacob. And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm. Yeah, it's such a good story. That's all I'll say there. It's such a good story. It got me invested from beginning to end, and it's a great hidden gem if you've never seen it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't hear this one talked about a ton, but the Mickey, Donald, and Goofy Three Musketeers is very cartoony and fun. We were talking about that at the beginning of the stream. It's no masterpiece, but I've seen it many times in third. Okay.
Like, I don't know about the Satan part, but
No. I don't.
but yeah, that movie is pretty underrated. That was my introduction to Three Musketeers was the Mickey Donald Goofy movie,
The
and
last
it's
Three Musketeers, anything that I remember us getting, like in movie wise, was in 2011. Paul W.S.
Oh no!
Anderson directed.
I remember seeing that when it came out, and even when it came out, I thought it sucked.
You should be entitled to compensation, like those mesothelioma commercials.
Uh,
But but we need a new Three Musketeers, like something in our lives. Like I know the BBC did a mini series, and I am interested to check that out. But I think there should be like a Three Musketeers movie, like at some point in the future. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd see it.
yeah, there's some good. I think there's some good storytelling and lore that you could do, and I think if you do a new version, I think it'd be pretty good.
Yeah, Alexander Dumas was a brilliant writer. He wrote Man in the Iron Mask. He wrote the original Three Musketeers. He wrote The Count of Monte Cristo, which I sincerely hope that we can cover this one day. Jacob, have you ever seen The Count of Monte Cristo with Jim Caviezel and Guy Pearce?
No,
Okay, then we're definitely covering that one because that movie is epic. I think
uh,
it was I think it was made for TV, I'm not sure, but it's surprisingly like really well done.
you pick the next one for next month, so that's your call. Floor's yours.
Well, I have a couple of ones and I'll tell you off air, but let's close the book on The Man in the Iron Mask. I think we both really enjoyed it, but
Yeah,
1 to 5, what did you think?
I'm gonna say 4.5 out of 5. I think it's a terrific movie. I like the mix of genres. The acting is superb. Really good storytelling all around, and severely underrated.
We are simpatico. I'm going 4.5 as well. The humor was a little hit and miss, but the rest of the movie was just awesome, like from beginning to end. This is one of those movies that is like secretly epic, and you look down the list and is like all capable actors doing their jobs to the best of their ability, and no one talks about it, which is a bit of a shame because I feel like this movie deserves more love. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of the movie if you have seen it? Let us know in the comments or in the replay afterwards or in the live chat. Love to hear what you have to say. And Jacob, it's a privilege to do this with you every month. You did mention you've got a Celebrating Disney live stream coming up. So what else?
That'll be sometime next week. Uh, I think the 5 movies I'll cover in that live stream. I've already mentioned one of them, The Cat from Outer Space. I'll also be covering Heavyweights, starring Ben Stiller. That's a trip right there. I'll also be covering Bedtime Stories, starring Adam Sandler, along with The Princess and the Frog and Toy Story 3. So be on the lookout for that live stream coming up. I got some music related live streams. Not any this week, but I'll be guesting on some on other channels. Uh, I think I think probably next week I'll get back to those on my channel. Continuing in coverage on reviewing Beatles albums, CCR albums. This past week I started a new series covering Elton John. If you want to get back and watch the replay, me, Nick, and Scott reviewed Elton John's UK debut album, 1969's Empty Sky. That was a good discussion. So be on the lookout for more of those types of videos coming real soon. And also this Wednesday, me and Henry Mockingbird are teaming up for a new series. We are going through the filmography of Don Bluth. We will be starting off not with The Secret of Nim. We're actually going to be starting with Pete's Dragon from 1977. No, Don Bluth was not the credited director of that movie, but he was the main animation director of Pete's Dragon. And on all accounts, he probably should have had a co directing spot along with the main director of Pete's Dragon because he was responsible for the main animation stuff in that movie. So we're starting with Pete's Dragon. That'll be this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm excited to see where that series will go. And hopefully, we'll also do discussing DreamWorks uh, by the end of April, where me and Ryan will be covering Megamind.
Oh yeah, it'll be interesting revisiting that one. I haven't watched that one in a while. But Jacob's channel's linked in the description. Go give him a subscribe. Jacob loved Don Bluth, some of them. Pete's Dragon is cute. Love Nim, of course. A Troll in Central Park, not so much.
Trolling Central Park is garbage.
I cannot wait for you and Henry to get to that one. But as far Jacob's channel is linked in the description. Go give him a subscribe there. As for this channel, we've got a new Road to series beginning this week. It is the Road to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, where I'm going to be covering every Planet of the Apes movie from the original up to War for the Planet of the Apes. And this is going to be a bit of a new era because Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is the first Planet of the Apes movie not made by Fox. So that's going to be very interesting, to see the least. And I've actually watched all these movies before, except for the Tim Burton one, which is going to be so much fun to watch for the first.
It's not a good movie.
Jacob Collins is already enlisted to review that with me, bless his soul. But I'm going to be having on a couple guests to review some of those movies with me, but that's going to be on the Road to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out in May. And then I got a couple more Road 2s coming up throughout the rest of the year, so stay tuned to the channel for that. And then Life of the Movies happens every month, where Jacob and I pick a random movie, we meet, and we discuss it and have a great time doing it. But thank you all so much for watching. For Jacob Martin, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. You all have a good night.
Night.